The Draconian flagship exploded. Human warriors poured from the airlock breach, seething with fury, starving for Draconian blood. The Draconian Empire never had war with humans before. Now the humans would make them regret it. Jake Reyes, grizzled human smuggler, slammed the Crimson Wyvern into dock at way station 617. Screeching metal, sparks, he stomped down the ramp into the cantina reek of stale liquor and desperation, slapped a credit chip on the sticky bar. His old friend Varys grabbed his shoulder. Varys was Iliani. Scaled skin, forked tongue. Information broker. Jake, Draconian set course to conquer free human colonies. Outnumbered, outgunned, hopeless. Jake clenched his jaw, squeezed his glass until it cracked. Humans fought for freedom before. They would fight again. No choice. Die free or live as slaves. He drained his drink, stood. Like hell, it's hopeless. Get me Draconian fleet positions. I'll handle the rest. The plan was suicide. One man against an empire. The colonies had to survive or humanity would end here. Backed into a corner, humans got mean, got vicious. The Draconians were about to learn that the hard way. There's one chance, Varys said. The United Terran Confederation hidden in the Galactic core. Jake frowned. The Separatists thought they were a myth. They're real. Broke from the colony centuries back. Hated seeing humans under alien thumbs, vanished into uncharted space, and no one's heard from them since. Rumors mostly. Talk of advanced tech, serious firepower. If anyone can push back the Draconians, it's them. Jake rubbed his chin. The UTC sounded like humanity's best shot, but finding them wouldn't be a cakewalk. The Galactic core was a stellar labyrinth. Pulsars, black holes, gravitational anomalies. One wrong turn, and you were space dust. We'd need a navigator, a damn good one. Cause uncharted, and mean as hell. Varys grinned. Got just the guy, all in car. Eccentric but brilliant. Knows the core like his own scales. An hour later, Jake sized up all in across a table. The Kratu had pale blue skin, forearms, and black eyes that seemed to stare through bulkheads. He drummed long fingers on the tabletop. I can guide you to the UTC, Orlin said, for a price. Jake crossed his arms. How much? 50,000 credits, half up front. 50. You out of your fair price, Orlin cut in. Core's no tourist cruise. One mistake and poof. Jake ground his teeth. It was extortion. But what choice did he have? Pay up or watch the colonies burn. Fine. Let's go. They left that night, the Crimson Wyvern humming with urgency. Jake cut the lights and kept to the shadows. Draconian ships prowled the space lanes like hungry wolves, all in hunched over the nav console, plotting their course. Jake watched the starfield shift as they broke orbit, angling for the shimmering haze of the Galactic core. No turning back now. The Wyvern plunged into the void, chasing a desperate hope. Humanity's last chance for survival. Weeks dragged by as the Crimson Wyvern wound through the Galactic core, all in hunched over the nav controls, eyes locked on sensor readouts, hands dancing across touchscreens. He guided the ship through roiling nebulas that jammed scanners and past neutron stars that lashed space with gravity. Jake's knuckles whitened on the helm controls as he wove between stellar storms. The ship groaned, hull plates buckling, warning lights flashing crimson. He gritted his teeth and held course. Coming up on the coordinates, Orlin finally said. Should be here. Jake leaned forward, peering at the view screen. A small red star filled the display alone in the void. No ships, no stations. His shoulders slumped. There's nothing here, just a dwarf star. Orlin shook his head. These are the right coordinates. I'm certain of it. Then where the hell are they? Jake slammed a fist on the console. We came all this way for a dead end. The comms crackled. Unidentified vessel. This is the UTC Indomitable. State your identity and purpose now. Jake jerked upright. A massive battle cruiser shimmered into view before them, decloaking from some advanced stealth field. Jagged and angular, It bristled with enough firepower to slag a moon. The Crimson Wyvern was a gnat next to it. He keyed the comms, heart pounding. "This is Jake Reyes of the independent freighter, Crimson Wyvern. I've come to warn you that the Draconian Empire, Crimson Wyvern, you are cleared to dock in the Indomitable's main hangar. The UTC High Council will hear your request." Jake sagged back in his chair, not quite believing it. They'd found the lost Confederation. Orlin flashed a sharp-toothed grin. "Looks like the trip was worth it after all." The Wyvern glided toward the Indomitable's cavernous landing bay. As the ships docked with a clang of locking clamps, Jake met Orlin's eyes. For the first time since they'd left Way Station 6117, he felt a flicker of hope. The colonies might just have a chance if he could convince the UTC to join the fight. Jake and Orlin marched through the Indomitable's gleaming corridors, escorted by a squad of UTC Marines in sleek powered armor. The Marines moved with fluid precision, rifles held at the ready. Jake couldn't help but stare at their equipment, from the advanced alloy of their armor plating to the compact energy weapons they carried. It was tech beyond anything the colonies had, maybe even beyond the Draconians. Transparent display screens lined the hallways, showing sensor data and fleet formations. Crew members in crisp black uniforms hurried past, barely sparing a glance for the visitors. The whole ship hummed with purpose and coiled power. The Marines led them into a large chamber with a vaulted ceiling and a circular table in the center. Figures in dress uniforms sat around it, eyes tracking Jake and Orlin as they entered. At the head of the table was an older man with iron gray hair and a face lined by decades of hard decisions. His uniform was adorned with rows of medals and the insignia of an admiral. "Welcome to the Indomitable," he said, voice firm with authority. "I am Admiral Winters, commander of this vessel and a member of the UTC High Council. We are told you have urgent news for us, Jake Reyes." Jake stepped forward and locked eyes with Winters. "I'll cut right to it, Admiral. The Draconian Empire is preparing a full-scale invasion of the free human colonies. The Draconians have conquered a dozen species before us. They have a massive fleet and advanced weapons. The colonies, my people, we can't stop them alone. We need your help." Winters steepled his fingers. "The Confederation has not involved itself in the affairs of the outer colonies for centuries. We left to pursue our own path long ago. Why should we intervene now?" Jake leaned forward, knuckles resting on the table. "Because if the Draconians take the colonies, they won't stop there. They'll keep expanding, conquering, enslaving. It's only a matter of time until they reach you out here." Orlin spoke up. "I have traveled through Draconian space many times, seen the brutality of their rule firsthand. They are not just a threat to the colonies, but to all free peoples of the galaxy." The counselors murmured to each other expressions unreadable. Winters held up a hand for silence. "Even if what you say is true, the Confederation has survived this long by remaining hidden. If we use our fleet against the Draconians, we reveal ourselves and risk destruction. Why should we take that risk for a group of distant, long-estranged cousins?" Jake met Winters' gaze without flinching. "Because we're still your people, Admiral. No matter how long ago you left, no matter how far apart we've grown, we're still human. We share bonds of blood and history that can never be erased." He looked around the table, making eye contact with each counselor in turn. "I know you believe in liberty, in freedom. The colonies do too. Right now, they're the only thing standing between the Draconians and total domination. If the colonies fall, how long until the Draconians come for you? How long until everything you've built out here is in peril?" Jake's voice rose with conviction. "But there's an alternative, a chance for something greater. If the Confederation fights alongside the colonies, it won't just be a defensive action. It will be a reunion centuries overdue, a chance to show the galaxy the full strength and unity of the human race, a chance to build a future together, free from the constant threat of conquerors like the Draconians." As Jake's words rang out in the chamber, he saw something shift in the counselors' faces. The hard, wary look softened slightly, replaced by thoughtful expressions, and even a few grudging nods. The Indomitable's council chamber fell into a tense silence after Jake's impassioned speech. Admiral Winters stared at him, eyes hard and calculating. Jake held his breath. This was the moment of truth. The fate of the colonies, of all humanity, hung in the balance. Finally, Winters nodded slowly. "We have heard your words, Jake Reyes. The Confederation has long believed that our isolation was our strength, that by remaining apart, we could weather any storm. But perhaps it is time for us to stand with our brothers and sisters once more." He stood squaring his shoulders. "The United Terran Confederation will mobilize its fleet in defense of the colonies. We will show the Draconians the true strength of humanity united." Jake sagged with relief, a grin splitting his face. "Thank you, Admiral. Thank you." The next days passed in a blur of frenzied activity as the UTC prepared for war. Sleek battleships slid out of hidden shipyards, engines flaring to life. Marines drilled tirelessly, honing their skills. Jake and Orlin worked closely with UTC tacticians, sharing all they knew of Draconian strategies and weaknesses. When the UTC fleet arrived at the embattled colonies, it was a sight to behold. Hundreds of ships, each a marvel of advanced technology and human ingenuity. They tore into the Draconian armada like wolves among sheep. The battles were brutal, desperate affairs. The Draconians fought viciously, but they were outmatched. UTC warships danced around their clumsy formations, picking them off with merciless efficiency. Marines in powered armor stormed enemy vessels, leaving trails of shattered Draconian bodies in their wake. Victory seemed within grasp, until the final battle above New Terror. Jake watched in horror from the bridge of the Indomitable as the Draconian flagship unleashed a new weapon, a pulsing beam of energy that stabbed down at the planet's surface. The ground buckled and cracked, cities crumbling into dust, a planet cracker. "We have to stop it," Jake shouted. "It'll tear the whole colony apart." Orlin stared at the tactical display, eyes narrowed. "There may be a way. If we can get close enough to the flagship, we could overload its reactor. The explosion would destroy the ship and the planet cracker along with it." Admiral Winters shook his head. "We'd never get close enough. Their point defenses would shred us. Not if we had a small, fast ship, something maneuverable enough to slip past their guns." Orlin turned to Jake, like the Crimson Wyvern. Jake's blood ran cold. "That's a one-way trip, Orlin. Whoever flies that mission, they aren't coming back." Orlin met his gaze, eyes filled with grim determination. "I know, but it's the only way to save New Terror, to save everyone." Before Jake could react, Orlin spun and sprinted off the bridge. Jake chased after him, heart pounding. He caught up to Orlin in the hangar bay, just as the Krathu was climbing into a sleek UTC fighter. "Orlin, wait. You can't do this." Orlin paused, looking back at Jake. "Someone has to, Jake, and better me than you. The colonies will need a hero after this, someone to help pick up the pieces. That's you, my friend, not me." Jake gripped the side of the fighter, knuckles white. "Don't throw your life away, Orlin, please. We can find another way." Holland smiled sadly. "We both know there is no other way." He clasped Jake's arm. "It's been an honor, Jake Reyes. Now let me go. Let me do this." With a heavy heart, Jake stepped back. He watched as Orlin sealed the cockpit and fired up the engines. The fighter lifted off, angling toward the chaos of the battle raging outside. Jake returned to the Indomitable's bridge, eyes fixed on the view screen. He watched Orlin's fighter weave through the maelstrom of ships and weapons fire, drawing ever closer to the Draconian flagship. "Come on, Orlin," he whispered. "Come on." The fighter plunged into an opening in the flagship's hull, vanishing from sight. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive ship buckled, explosions ripping through its superstructure. It tore itself apart from within, the planet cracker beams sputtering out. A ragged cheer went up on the Indomitable's bridge as the flagship broke apart, but Jake couldn't join in. All he could think of was all in, sacrificing himself to save millions. With their flagship destroyed and their ultimate weapon gone, the Draconian fleet fell into disarray. The UTC pressed the attack, hammering the enemy until they finally broke and fled. The battle was won. The colonies were saved, but the cost had been high. In the aftermath, Jake stood among the celebrating colonists and UTC personnel. They clapped him on the back, hailing him as a hero, but he felt hollow inside. He had lost his best friend, and now he had to find a way to carry on without him. As the UTC and the colonies began the long process of rebuilding and reintegration, Jake knew his work was far from over. He had to ensure that all in sacrifice meant something, that the fragile peace they had won would endure. He returned to the Crimson Wyvern, running a hand along its battered hull. This ship had carried him through so much. Now it would carry him into an uncertain future, a future he would face without all in at his side. But he would face it nonetheless for the colonies, for the UTC, for humanity, for Orlin. Jake fired up the engines, and the Crimson Wyvern lifted off, pointed toward the stars, toward whatever challenges and adventures awaited him. He had a promise to keep. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.